feeling? How are you?
Welcome to Nested, an original podcast from the White Wren featuring intersected stories about love, life at home, and everything in between. Our mission is to inspire and encourage you in prioritizing tangible interactions that take place within the four walls of your family home. Each episode, we talk to interesting people who have a heart for making time for the things that matter most in life. Let's dive into this episode.
We'll find our way back home. We'll find our way back home. No, we'll never have to walk alone. We'll find our way back.
For this episode, Brent Deitrich, publisher at the White Wren, sits down to chat with Kristen Green of Published and Pretty, a wedding submission service.
I am here with Kristen Green today from Published and Pretty. Kristen is a frequent emailer of mine at the White Wren. I get frequent emails from her. And why don't you tell everybody why it is that you email me so much, Kristen?
Sounds good. So I am a wedding publicist, and that means that I handle wedding submissions for my photography and wedding planning clients. And I help them look for homes for their beautiful weddings and editorials so that they can focus on the heart behind their work and just ensuring for a good client experience, passing that portion of the job off to me. So yes, I'm always emailing you because you are one of my favorite publications. I wish I should have checked to see how many features that we've done together, but I'm sure it's over 30 probably. It's a good bit.
Probably, yeah.
So yeah, you're always my go-to whenever I see just a beautiful, naturally lit, airy, timeless, classic wedding. But most importantly, I love what you guys do, just telling the couple's love story and doing the marriage part justice, because I feel like so many publications are so caught up in the details and just making for a pretty wedding. And I love that you guys are all about making for a beautiful marriage and a beautiful life after that pretty wedding.
Yeah, that's exactly the heart of what we did. I wonder when, I have to do a little search now, because I wonder when you first started sending stuff to us. Was it in the very beginning, like when we first started? Because I think that was 2017. But I can't remember if it was that or if it was like when we were a couple years into it. But
it was probably pretty close to the beginning. I mean, I've been doing this since we started the business in 2011, I believe. So it took me a little bit of time to really carve out this portion of what I do, and that being my main focus now. But I've been doing wedding submission work for just over 10 years now. So it's probably pretty close to the beginning of things.
Oh, that's crazy. And what did you do before that?
Well, I went to school with a degree in marketing and communications. My specific niche within school was PR. So I got my first job right out of college, the place that I interned, and I did PR for staffing firms and authors and nonprofits. And I really loved the work. I thought it was a lot of fun, but I didn't necessarily have a strong passion for those industries. So I was looking for something else that I could do with that expertise and kind of get it going in the background while I still worked with that company. And at the same time, my mom was in insurance. And if you know her, you would be like, I can't see her doing that, because she is a very, very creative person. And growing up, she always made our birthday cakes. We just had these, cool themed parties, even as little kids. And I mean, she's always just been very creative, and she's always worked for herself, and she wasn't really happy doing what she was doing either. So we were like, what could we do together? And she used to do events for some hotels back in the day before I was born. So we were like, maybe we should explore the wedding industry. And she found a venue that was brand spanking new. It was run by a young man who was in his early 20s, and it was just an investment, and he didn't really know what he was doing as far as the industry. So we worked with him for a few years and really helped him be able to build his business up to the point where he was booked almost every single weekend. And my mom was like, maybe there's something here. So she actually went off and opened her own venue. And she managed another one that was owned by a family friend. So she really went into the venue marketing, venue sales aspect, the ins and outs of running a venue herself. And she was one of my first clients in this aspect of like the whole submission process and everything like that. And I, at the time, had moved away to DC where my husband was. So I was like, I need to be doing something virtually. I can't be, here with you at the wedding venue. So I did what I could remotely, which was the website work, the social media, and eventually started working with more and more photographers as they would send the pictures over for us to use on social media. I'm like, this is so pretty. We need to get this published. It's going to bring in more awareness for my mom's venue. It's going to bring more awareness for these photographers. And that's really how it started, was just seeing that there was this need for getting the work out there and more than just a social media feed where it could be so easily buried. And that's really where it took off. I found that so many photographers wanted to get their work published, but they didn't have time, or they didn't know how, or it felt overwhelming. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And that's really where it started to go for me. And I still did some other things on the side. I was still doing social media. I was still doing some website work. But as I had more children, I had to be like, okay, I can't do everything anymore. So what can I do? And that's really all I do now, is the submission work. And I love it. I can do it any place, anytime. I'm not under any serious deadlines like website work or social media where I have to be glued to the phone all day long to be, keeping up with engagement or anything like that. So this is what I'm doing. This is what I will continue to do in the foreseeable future. I don't see myself adding anything back on. I get people who ask me all the time, well, can you do this too? And if not, will you recommend us to somebody else? And I'm like, I will always recommend you to somebody else, but I can't take that kind of stuff on myself anymore.
Yeah. That's quite a story. Also, your mom sounds like my wife because she does these extravagant themed birthday parties for our kids. And she makes the cakes, and they're always like some kind of character cake or like three-dimensional sculpted, the whole thing. I think it started like with my daughter. Well, yeah, obviously it started. My oldest is my 10-year-old daughter now, but I think as far as themed parties, I remember we did, it was either a Winnie the Pooh party or an Octonauts. And I think it might have been the Winnie the Pooh one. And I I built this giant cardboard tree in the corner of our living room that the kids could like go inside of.
Oh my gosh, that is so
And
fun.
it had like a little door and everything. And I think that was maybe what started the birthday parties. And then like in being like themed and extravagant. And so now they're always like, they have some element. My 5-year-old son, he just had this, for whatever reason, he's gotten infatuated with Link from The Legend of Zelda. He barely even plays the game, but he saw some videos, and so every day he dresses up like a little warrior elf with his little pointed hat on and a belt and his sword on his back, and just runs around the house that way. So that was his birthday party. But yeah, so that made me think of that when you said that. But the venue thing is interesting. I remember we talked about this before. It might have been for an Instagram Live. I think we did an Instagram Live, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember we talked about y'all's venue and stuff. So things have changed. I mean, you've probably seen it because you started your business in 2011 in like the publication world in a big way. Because when we started in 2017, publications were kind of like a portion of them were starting to fizzle out because things were changing in that market. And so now I feel like it's even very different. I know that we've had to adapt in a lot of different ways. What do you, like, what's your take on that? How do you see the history of that going over the last couple years? Or do you think that it's kind of more condensed to like the top quality publications that could survive?
It's very interesting because it's a totally different landscape depending on where you're at in your photography business. I think for those who are just starting out, or maybe they've been around for a little while, but they're not quite at the level of shooting for those top luxury publications. There is a ton of opportunity within that space. For those who are really, really upper level of the industry and are shooting for those top tier publications, there aren't many there anymore. And it's sad because for those photographers who have, and planners, any kind of vendor who has worked so hard to establish themselves as a, luxury wedding photographer, luxury wedding planner, and they want that recognition and those opportunities, there aren't many anymore for them to get their work showcased. I mean, there are less than a handful of publications that those types of clients say that they want to be featured in, and the competition is so high there that they're like, you know what, I would rather just get this wedding out and share it on social media than wait forever and ever and maybe not even have it land somewhere because the competition is so high. So it's very interesting for those in that level of the wedding industry, but I feel like for everybody else, there's still a lot of good opportunity and a lot of good quality publications. Now, print is something that's been interesting too, because for a long time, print was like everyone's goal. It was so cool to have a wedding featured in print, to be able to flip through the publication in your hands. And I totally get that. I had my own wedding was featured in a print publication, and I love still being able to pull that out and flip through it and show it to my kids and everything. But it just became too expensive. There were quality issues with some of these magazines. Some people put the print publication on hold during COVID, and then it just has never come back to life after that. Maybe it's something that was costing them too much money, or they didn't see it as being as profitable as what they can do online. So there is not a whole lot of opportunity for print features these days, unless it's like a local publication or maybe some kind of like special annual print magazine that will come out or something like that. So that's been interesting because a lot of brides prefer print for those reasons, but there's not a lot of opportunity there, which again, I think there's a huge gap. There are a ton of gaps in the publication industry. I think there are a lot of opportunities for somebody who's looking to start a publication or grow their publication, because there are a lot of holes, like specifically in the Southeast. I know there used to be Southern weddings, and there was one, I think it was called Southeastern Bride, and there was another one. There's not a whole lot dedicated to like the South, and I'm based in Atlanta now. I know I mentioned I lived in DC for a while, but I'm from Atlanta. I was there for a couple of years while my husband had a job there. We're back in the Atlanta area now, and there's just not a lot of opportunities for like a regional or local publication here. And I think there's a big opportunity there, and I just see these vendors who I know would pay to have their work featured in something like that. I know that they would appreciate the community that would come from something like that, and there's not a whole lot of opportunity there.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, you should start a publication. And I'm like, I don't have the time. I wish I could. I wish I knew somebody who would be on board for doing that. But that's not also my expertise. I'm on this end of things.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
And it's hard. It's almost, I would venture to say it's almost impossible to run a publication single-handedly. Like there's so many different little facets of it.
Yeah.
And just like the workflow of what you have to do is just so many little pieces of the wheel. So, I mean, we are fortunate to have great people that work with us, but I know back in the day, like some people would be like solo bloggers. And I guess maybe if you were just doing like, that's all you did was blogs, maybe that's doable. But we're trying to do more multimedia now, obviously. Hence, we are here talking on this podcast, trying to do more YouTube, trying to do, we have some long range goals for the website as well of where we want it to go, but I just don't know how we could do it single handedly. But then you're always balancing that with revenue and keeping the publication just fluid in money.
Yeah.
Which is tough too, because with social media and influencer generations and all of this thing, now people's attentions have shifted to, oh, I can make myself go viral. I don't know, I don't have to be featured for people to find me. I can just, do something catchy and all of a sudden I have 100,000 views. So, do you get to talk? I'm interested. Like, I know you work directly with like vendors for getting featured. Do you ever talk to the people that are being featured? I know you said that brides will want to be featured in a particular magazine or something like that.
Yeah, so depending on the client, some of my clients will be like, take everything off my plate, reach out to the bride, get all the information from the couple, just let me know if you need my help, but if not, like, take everything off my plate. So in those cases, I do connect with the couple and get what I need from them as far as a questionnaire with, the details and the story behind everything. And I've also had, in the last year or so, I've had more and more brides finding me somehow. I have no idea how, but they are coming to me and they're like, hey, I know you work with photographers, but I really want to get my wedding published. Can I be your client, and can I pay you to help me get my wedding published? So
Interesting.
that's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
And usually those couples they're just excited to have it featured. They're not, really they have some specific goals in mind, but they love their vendors so much that they know the importance of it, and they want to help their vendors, and they just want to be able to sing their vendors' praises, which is really, really cool that they want to do that on behalf of their vendor team instead of having their vendors pay to have me hired and do the submission work.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I've noticed probably over the last 2 years that we've also seen an uptick in brides emailing us directly.
Interesting. That's cool.
About, it was very rare that brides would email us directly. And we've had several, and and like going with that, then it's kind of interesting too, because they'll be like, I've been following your magazine for a long time and I would love to have my wedding featured on there. And I have we get a lot of good submissions, and sometimes it's really hard to say no.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like it's but we have like schedules and bandwidth. Like there's only so much that we can publish too.
Right.
But I always feel like a little bad when I've had a few brides who will like been reading you forever, but they send us their wedding and it's like just not our aesthetic at all. And I'm like, oh, because I want to like
thank them for being a loyal follower.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
I get it.
I want to make their dream come true. But then I'm like, and it's not like that's a large percentage, honestly, because we don't have a large percentage of couples or brides emailing us directly either. But every time I have those, it crushes me a little bit, because I'm oh.
It's another reason why I could not be on that side, because I am afraid to hurt people's feelings, and I have a hard time saying no to stuff like that. So
yeah, I know. So I feel like when we get something from a vendor, typically the best aesthetic matches for us are when it comes from a submission service like you, which we have a couple people that do that, and they send us work, or like the photographer. If planners send it to us, sometimes it's all over the board as far as the aesthetic. So it's interesting how where the focus, like the people that can see this matches this.
Yes. Yeah.
Where that comes from.
Yeah, because I feel like the planner is so involved in the details, and they might see the details of something in their head or something, it's what they saw on the day of. It's so beautiful, but then how it's captured can make or break it as far as the submission goes. And, they might have a design vibe or a design style that they feel like is fitting, but if the photography is moodier or too traditional or whatever, then it's not going to be a fit. So that's what's hard for the planners is, they only have so much control over what the outcome is like, even though, they've done their best work, it's beautiful. But then if the photography falls flat or for some reason is not the right fit style wise, then it's not going to be a fit for submission.
Yeah. So on that topic of like things being the right fit for a submission, and we're gonna probably actually do a monthly collaborative call about this pretty soon, about like how to shoot something to be featured. But with the advent of the blurry image coming back, which has its place in time, uh, as long as an object that's meant to be in motion in that image is captured in motion. We have also seen an uptick in that where people just make blurry photos just to make blurry photos. And so, like, here's a bouquet of flowers, blurry. Here's a table setting, blurry. I've even had stationery, and I'm like, what point does this have?
Right.
I can't read anything on that
Right.
piece of paper. It's just a swoosh on the screen.
Yeah.
And I know some people have made some Instagram reels and stuff about this that were like, photographers in whatever 2016 capturing details, and it would be like very meticulously placed, and then it would be like photographers in 2024 capturing details, and they're just like dropping their camera and accidentally taking a picture.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's what it does look like sometimes. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Do you see that too a lot more on your end, or do you feel like the ones that send their work to you are a little more meticulous about that as far as detail stuff goes? Or
Yeah, I feel like, so I work with clients in a couple of different ways. So I have my monthly retainer clients that I've been working with for, more long-term periods of time, and their work is pretty timeless, and I feel like they're pretty true to their style. But occasionally I do accept submissions from photographers or planners on a one-off basis. So those people I might not be working with all the time. I don't necessarily know exactly what their style has been 2-4 years ago, or however long I've been working with some of these other clients. But I do see a lot of that now, and I feel like it's trying to be trendy and keep up with the trends. And especially like the people who that do not shoot film, how they're trying to get their photos to look more grainy and like they're a film photographer, because they see that that's kind of where things are heading. So I appreciate the creativity, but at the same time, it's like you don't need to be doing all this trendy stuff to continue doing good work. And like you said, I think that's a really good point. Like if it's an object that's meant to be in motion, so if it's the bride walking and you get this really pretty detail shot of her dress flowing and like her shoes, and you get her legs, like it's just this cool moment, but you don't necessarily have to have one of everything that you shoot, like the blurry invitation or the blurry bouquet, like one or two within a gallery, just it makes for a cool photo and maybe adds to the story of something, but don't overdo it.
Yeah, I think it has to make sense from telling the story.
Yes.
What things are designed to be in motion here and which aren't, and kind of evaluating it that way when you're creating. So I want to just go back again to the thing about that I said a minute ago about like people just trying to get their own work to go viral. From your perspective, like, do you have, what do you see as far like, do people come to you and say, hey, I have this thing and I want to make it go viral? Or do you see people doing that more independently of like a service, and they're just trying to create a reel or a TikTok or something that takes off?
So usually people will come to me once something that they've posted has gone viral, and they're like, hey,
Interesting.
this is getting a lot of attention online. I think that this publication would be interested in featuring it. And I mean, that's in the last couple of days, I've gotten a couple emails. One was a professional rugby player whose wedding is getting a lot of attention online. And they're like, okay, maybe, and this is not a retainer client. This is somebody who I've only done a couple of submissions for. And they're like, hey, this is getting a lot of recognition. How about we submit this one? So it's stuff like that. That they've maybe tried to share it on their own, and they've seen that there's potential, so that then they reach out to me and try to get more coverage in a bigger way as far as getting it published outside of just social media.
Interesting. That's interesting. Are they like trying to make it go viral when it does, or it's like more of a spontaneous thing that they're just like, do they know they have a viral moment?
I think some of them do. If it's an
Okay.
amazing detail or something, one of them was this like custom built installation for the reception that was all outdoors, but it made it look like it was indoors. And they knew that that design element was going to be something that went viral. And they got a
Mm-hmm.
specific, they had a content creator come and shoot like a specific reel for featuring all of the details of that particular space.
Mm-hmm.
But then others are just, maybe like a celebrity wedding or something like that, that is going to get the attention,
Yeah.
and they want to just take advantage of that being timely and exciting and relevant and try to get more coverage for it.
Yeah. Content creators. You said that word, so I'm going to go there.
Okay, let's do it.
What are your thoughts on this whole trend?
I think it's cool, and it's funny. It's so funny because going back to my mom mentioning how she's so creative, she told me this idea before it happened. And
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh no, I don't think that's a really good idea. No, it's so popular that she's like, remember I told you about that? And I'm like, oh yeah. So I mean, I think that it's cool for some people who, like, today's couple is more digital and into social media than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
So for this generation, I can see the appeal because they want to see all those behind the scenes interactions of, their bridal party or the guests or whatever that the photographer isn't necessarily focusing on. So I get that aspect of it. I just think it's something that has there was a demand, and somebody
Mm-hmm.
stepped up to meet that demand. I don't think that 10 years ago there was really a demand for something like that, because while we were all still getting used to Instagram and figuring out all of what social media meant beyond just Facebook and maybe Snapchat or whatever was around then. But now people have all these platforms. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they maybe have either vloggers, or they're on YouTube. Like, people are just so much more digitally involved that I
Yeah.
get the appeal now. But I told my mom I didn't think it was a good idea, but that's just because I'm a grandma at heart. Like, truly, if you try to find anything on me personally on social media, you won't, because I don't publish anything about
Yeah.
my family life. Like, it's not that I think there's anything wrong with it for people who do. I just am a very private person, and I never, like, when social media was up and coming, I just never really jumped on the train. So now it kind of feels a little late to jump on the train. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever I'm doing on social media is likely for my business. And that's just the way it is for me. So
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I do think that there's some relevancy there for the submission aspect too. Like, some editors will ask for any, like, behind the scenes reels or just something fun that they can share on social media, because it is fun content to watch, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of that stuff can go viral. But it's just been an interesting trend, so I'll be excited to keep watching it and see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had a few that have sent us that content, and it is good for a reel. Like it, we try to do reels as much as we can because that's kind of what people are watching now. But it's interesting because there's so many thoughts about it. I mean, you could do a deep dive into just social media and people's thinking patterns, but it's from an artistic perspective, it's interesting to see because um, a couple years ago, I told people that I felt like what was happening in the industry, and just even with social media overall, was that people were going to things that felt less perfect because it made them feel like there was more authenticity to social media,
Mm-hmm.
instead of everything feeling hyper curated and unachievable. It made them feel like they could relate more to what they were viewing. And you'll see this in high schoolers and college kids now, where the trend towards capturing life around them has gone backwards about 15 to 20 years, where they don't want to do it just on a phone anymore because it doesn't feel as authentic. So you go to a thrift shop and you buy an old Canon PowerShot camera or something that is ancient that has very few pixels, and you document your life on that because that's cool. And so the content creation thing, to me, it feels like just what a videographer does, but not quite as polished.
Yeah.
And more instantly available, which
Mm-hmm.
also comes along with how, you know, the internet age has created an on-demand generation, where everything is available and accessible immediately as soon as it's, you know, I mean, we're watching things in real time. We're getting headlines constantly in real
Yes.
time. We're not waiting a day for the news to get to us or anything like that. So everything is just boom, 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 boom. So it's interesting. But then I feel like, people are doing content creation on phones, and phones have also gotten really good at doing video. And so I almost feel like this is eventually going to remerge again, because I feel like the content creator work is going to start to become very good, very polished looking, because the technology behind it is really good. And it could just basically merge back into professional videography again, but a little bit more on demand.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I don't know. That's my theory. So I'll stick with that and see.
Yeah,
But
see what happens.
it's also kind of weird because people will hire a photographer, a videographer, and a content creator.
Oh
And
yeah,
so it
it's a
feels like
lot.
there's so many overlaps in that.
Mm-hmm.
And also so many people trying to get the same shots.
I agree.
But
Yeah, it's a lot of cameras in your face.
it's a lot of cameras. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So that's an interesting aspect of it too.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I know a lot of providers have started adding it on as a service. They'll do photography plus that, or they'll do videography plus that. So it's and then another thing that we've had, which, as you probably know, like I do photography and videography as my full-time job as well. We've had this sort of we've had a few clients this year, and I've talked to some other people where they've noticed it becoming a trend too, for videography, where they want the video to, um, they don't want necessarily the cinematic, feels like a movie presentation
Mm-hmm.
of their wedding. They want it to feel like Uncle Bob walked around with a video camera on his shoulder the whole day and just recorded
Mm-hmm.
everything. And they want it to feel like just very documentary like that.
Yeah.
Like, we've had clients specifically request that we only do that's just how they wanted it to feel, like a home movie, which is also another kind of interesting, but goes back to my theory again about the internet and this hyper polished environment where people are like, I just want something that feels like a little messy sometimes.
I do agree with that in a way because, like everything, I feel like video styles can change so much so quickly. Whereas,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of photographers have timeless work. We know that, your
Yeah.
wedding photos, if you pick a good photographer who has that kind of vibe, your wedding photos are going to look just as good 10 years from now, 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
But, songs come in and out of popularity for video. The angles, the whole, drone aspect of things now, like things have changed so much in the video industry that I can see why people would just want more of that raw footage rather than
Mm-hmm.
having something with, this song selection that might not stand the test of time, or these like weird cuts or edits that might not stand the test of time. So I do get that. I did recently have a bride who reached out to me who wanted to have their work published, and she sent me their video and was like, this is horrible, just wanted to let you know we're getting the raw footage and we're having somebody else redo it. And I watched the video and I'm like, this isn't horrible by industry standards. Like, it was a very well, I'm sure this videographer had been around for a long time and they thought that they did a good job. I'm like, I'm surprised that she said that, but I think it's what you said. I think that she wanted something that wasn't so cinematic, because it did. A lot of them do. Like you click the play button and it's like these opening credits that roll with this like big dramatic opening and everything. And it might be cool in the moment, but it doesn't give you the feeling that you wanted to capture from your wedding day. So I do get that now. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I've not really gone down that rabbit hole yet, but I totally get that.
Yeah. Yeah, the request that we had recently also was like, the couple, they wanted to be sure that they captured a lot of that documentary style feel of the people that were there, just engaging and having fun with each other, because they had gone down the rabbit hole of looking at home movies from their childhood.
Oh yeah.
And so they were like, this is awesome, and nobody does this anymore, and this is what we want, because we want, 20 years later to rewatch this and be like, oh, there's so and so,
Yeah.
maybe some of them aren't even alive anymore, but you're like capturing those interactions.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And it's, I mean, I actually like it, because I feel like our memories are so fragmented right now. Like, the way that we document and capture things is less archival than it used to be, because in the 1980s, 1990s, before everything became very digital, you would have a VHS tape, you'd pop it in a camcorder, and you would fill it up. And once it was filled up, it went on a shelf somewhere, probably. But then if you wanted to go back to that year, you could watch it like a little chronological book of everything that had happened in that period of time, because it was all stacked in there end to end. And now I feel like, our videos and stuff just kind of go into this digital reservoir that we don't often tap into or look back on.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do, but it's less tangible and less accessible, and it's always typically very short clips of life, versus like somebody walking around for 5 minutes just taking video of everybody opening Christmas presents on Christmas morning, or something like that. So I don't know. I like this trend of like,
I do too.
long form capture
Yeah.
of things. So I hope that kind of continues, but then I hope we figure out a better way to make it accessible and rewatch it too, because I feel like that's the issue that we've had with all this digital is just the accessibility of going back to it again.
I agree. Yeah, so my grandpa passed away a month ago now, as of yesterday, and he lived to be 92. And, it obviously was so sad, and we are still sad that he's not with us, but just the blessing of getting to be in my 30s and have a grandpa, where some of my friends had no grandparents. They grew up not even knowing what it was like to have grandparents. And my kids got to have great grandparents, and it's been such a blessing. But we went back and we were looking through all the old photos, and we had some old videos from, the old fashioned like camcorders. And it was just really cool to be able to see all that. And then, he took so many pictures of things that I never knew, like landscape, like beautiful. They traveled all over the place. My grandma was a travel agent for a while. So they went to Paris, and they went on all these elaborate cruises, like Alaskan cruises, and, like month-long cruises to different places. And he just took some of the most beautiful photos. And then we saw pictures of him with like the camera around his neck and always having a camera. And it was just really cool to see like what he captured, and then see him on the other side, like posing with the camera. There was a photo of him and my grandma, like in a hammock at their cabin that we grew up going to. And it was just a picture of their feet, like them snuggled up together, a picture of their feet. And we showed it to my grandma, and she's like, why did he take a picture of our feet? And we were like, no, that is so sweet. Like, this is popular now. Like, if we posted this online, it would have gotten so many likes or whatever. But
it'd be an aesthetic on Instagram.
Yes, but just, these sweet moments of his life captured like that. And I told my husband, I'm like, we have thousands and thousands of photos on our phone, and rarely do we get anything printed. I'm like, we need to start having things printed so that we have the ability to flip through things from time to time with our kids and
Yeah.
have them more easily accessible than just on our phones. So
Yeah.
we need to prioritize that as a family ourselves.
We say the same thing, and we've gone through, we would try to print like a little book for like a particular moment in life, like being pregnant with our second child or something like that. And it would kind of have like, a little book, like like pregnancy pictures and newborn pictures and just like a little nugget for that kid. Um, but it's hard to make the time and be intentional about doing it too. And I think too that, I mean, the way that we used to capture things, there was no other way to view it afterwards except to print it. So that was your
Right.
only choice. So you had to print it. And we probably take a lot of pictures of things now that we wouldn't have taken a picture of before, because we're just like, there's just so much accessibility to it. So we're just taking pictures of
Yes.
everything. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it kind of, I guess that in a way it dilutes down the important moments too, because you got to sift through all the everyday life moments, to find the ones that you're like, well, this was a highlight. And, maybe you go back and find the highlights and kind of print those out or something. But I don't know. I am always like thinking of that, like for my kids and stuff, like how are they gonna view all this stuff later? Like where are they gonna, where's the archive gonna be? And obviously, it's there, it's digital. It's just you gotta dig to find stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting.
In a way, we're more secure. Like digital feels more archival ready because you can back it up in numerous places. And so the risk of deletion or the risk of archival loss is not as great as it was years ago. But then somehow there's like a lot of historical documents and things that have survived all kinds of things through the years and are still around. So like a lot of the important pieces of paper still made it through and are archived somewhere. So I don't know. It's just it's a different world with the digital stuff.
It is, and it's
But
ever evolving.
Yeah, but I'll still like, I still have pictures. Like I think about that, like the printed photos that I have from like when I was little, like they're still there. And, maybe I should have them in a safe. I'm like, maybe I should have them in a safe in case my house burns down. I mean, that has happened to people. Like their house burns down and they lose all their
lose
family
everything.
photos.
Yeah.
So, we've thought about, we should probably digitally archive some of these old things too, because, in the event of something like that, you don't want to lose your whole family history, like everything you have to look at.
Point.
But I think the percentage of that is still pretty low in a way. Like it's probably a very rare occurrence for people to lose all their tangible material.
But that's a good point. There's a need for both to have things digitally, but also then the desire of wanting to just have them in your hands too. There's a time and place for everything.
Yeah. Well, that was a bit of a rabbit trail
It was.
from your business focus, but that was fun.
It was.
So, what do you think about? I'm gonna switch topics and go back again to kind of the internet and being featured, and people getting leads or seeing like direct return on investments from being featured or having their social media go viral. Like, I don't know how much you see of that on your side, but do you think that is it a buzz? Is it a feel good? Or does it still translate into actual leads in business for people? Or is it just kind of all part of a long-term marketing strategy of like promoting yourself?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a long-term thing. I mean, the benefits of getting your work featured, it helps with SEO when you get those quality backlinks to your website. It helps with awareness when you are featured on some of these top wedding planning or wedding inspiration publications, and then they're sharing it on their Pinterest and their Instagram and the places that brides and couples are going to look for their inspiration. or maybe to look for their vendors even, and you're featured on some of these vendors lists within the publications. So it helps with awareness, it helps with SEO. I think one of the biggest benefits is it just helps with clout. I think that if there are two photographers and their work is similar, their pricing is similar, but one photographer says, I've been featured on, this, and this publication, and they have this whole press page and all of this. You're like, okay, well, this photographer feels more credible. It feels like they maybe have been vetted a little bit more. Their work is maybe a little bit more trusted. It's a little bit more, they have a little bit more recognition for some reason. So I feel like it just helps you, whether within the industry, help kind of build that clout within your community. And also when you have potential couples looking to book with you, if you've been featured these places, it just makes them feel like there's some kind of comfort around the fact that knowing that you've been featured all these places. And maybe it's something that they're like, okay, well, if I want to have my work featured, I'm going to pick this photographer because they're featured all the time. And maybe then my wedding will get featured too. So I think it's multifaceted. I do have clients who will come to me and say, thank you so much for having this wedding be featured here. Here's this lead that I just got. And the person's like, I saw this. It's usually specific things, like somebody who's looking to elope in this specific destination, who saw this elopement featured, and they're like, this is exactly what I want to do for my elopement. Like, I'm so glad I found this, and they book that photographer. So stuff like that, it is very helpful when you have a specific destination. Maybe it's a specific venue that they want to get married at, or, like a specific kind of Lake Como elopement or something like that, where they're looking for a particular vibe and a particular feel, and they can look online and find features out there and be able to use that to help them find their vendors to achieve the same goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you still think that that the features result in like direct leads from it? Like
I think they do. Yeah, I think they do in those specific moments. I think a lot of it is still all about who you know. So if you have the couple books the planner first, or the couple books the venue first, or wherever they book first, obviously that first touch point is going to have their recommendations of vendors. So maybe it's the venue that they've wanted to get married at their whole life. They go there and they get the venue's preferred set of vendors, and maybe they have some flexibility to bring in outside vendors, or maybe they don't, and they need to pick and choose who's on this list. Or if it's a wedding planner that they book with first, and then the wedding planner's like, this is my go-to florist I always work with, like she does the best work or whatever, then you're kind of you're getting your vendor team built based on those recommendations. But I do see a handful of times where people are like, this person booked me specifically because of this feature on such and such publication, which is always cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like I guess I probably don't get my own work featured as much these days. I think because running a publication, I'm like, and also our own business has kind of gotten to the point where we just get a lot of word of mouth referrals for it. And so that's kind of how it just rolls. But I remember, like, it used to be that you would, if we got featured on a blog, like that same day, we would sometimes often get like a few emails that would roll in as a lead and be like, hey, I saw this and blah, blah, blah. I really like your work. And so that's why I was kind of curious if it still is that way for people. Because I know like return on investment with blogs it's been a thing that, we've sort of had to re-educate people in a way, because people over the years, their perception of the value of it changed. And some of it was just not great publications that just wanted to take people's money and not give a whole lot in return.
Yeah.
And people got a little jaded about the whole process. And so, that's been a thing that we've had to work with is educating people for what long-term return on investment looks like, and why it is good to have, features and be published somewhere, or even advertised somewhere where you're not necessarily seeing like a dramatic, I just put my name out here and I've got 20 leads in the first week. But kind of the long-term game of, I'm going to do this strategy for the next 2 to 3 years
Mm-hmm.
and have my business, spread across the internet in these multiple places where people should be able to find me. So things have changed that way. I think a little bit, and I think it also comes down to that accessibility of people becoming their own content creator or influencer, where they, if they have something go viral, they have the ability to suddenly have a large audience that they can sell to. Where before you would be a little bit more dependent on like an established thing to piggyback off of.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel
Yeah.
like the wedding industry, it's almost unrecognizable from the time that I began, and just trying to always keep up with what's happening because I don't have a lot of interaction on social media. It's, when I get my clients' work published, I'll share it on my social media. But as far as like what it means to run a photography business or run a wedding planning business and what you have to do online to capture the attention of all these couples and everything, I can't imagine having to do all of that on top of everything else that you're already doing. So
Yeah.
it does make sense that they want to hand off the PR aspect, because while it's interrelated to their overall marketing strategy, it's a totally different ballgame than what they have to do to keep up with all the trends on social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where do you get, do you get a lot of your leads for your business off of social media? Like other people see that you've been the PR person for a feature, and then they like, how do your leads typically come in?
I do get a lot off social media, which to me is just so ironic because I am doing the bare minimum there. So
Yeah.
I'm really blessed that I'm still getting leads, because when I say I'm a grandma when it comes to social media, like I truly am. I do not do, like, I only just recently started doing reels. I'm like, add one more thing to it, and I'm like, really, do we have to keep adding all these features? I don't even know what half of them do. I'm like, I need to take some courses on Instagram. And it's so sad because I probably sound so much older than I am, but I just have not had the interest. And I haven't had the need, honestly, which again, I feel so blessed. A lot of my work comes from referrals from other people who I've worked with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are these brides finding me? Because I'm not doing anything to market towards brides. I have no idea. I'm so thankful. But I do get people who will reach out to me and be like, hey, I saw that you shared this Vogue feature and I really want my wedding, or I really want this client's wedding feature on Vogue. Can you help me? Stuff like that. So yeah, I do get a good bit of stuff coming from social media, but the best client for me is somebody who has come from a friend of somebody who I'm already working with, who has been talking about my work and how I've helped their business and how I take things off their plate, and they get the importance of the PR aspect of it, and they understand the process of it, and they understand the publication world, because so many people who will come to me and they're like, I want to get this featured. I need to know by the end of the week if it's going to run. And I'm like, that's not how it works in the editorial world. Like these editors are under deadlines to get magazines wrapped up, or they're working on getting all of this portion of their editorial calendar rolled out for the rest of the year. Like, there's a reason why when you submit places, they say, expect to hear back from us within 2 weeks, or we will only respond if it's a yes within 6 weeks, or whatever it is, because
Yeah.
they're very busy. And I do get quicker responses a lot of times because I'm working with them on usually all these other projects. So it's easy for me to just be like, hey, while we're talking about, this athlete's wedding, I have this professional rugby player's wedding. I can run things by them and get a quicker answer than some people who might be submitting on their own who don't have those relationships. But, the best client for me is somebody who understands and values and knows that it is a process and trusts me to take the time to make sure that we do it right, and get something featured somewhere that's going to be a good fit for their goals and for their client.
Yeah, for sure. Well, how is it juggling all of this with having small kids around? Because I know I'm sort of in the same boat as you. I mean, I have a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and an almost 2-year-old. So my kids are all over in ages, and some of them are doing school, and some of them are not. But
Mm-hmm.
um, how is that?
It definitely feels like juggling.
Yeah.
It's it's hard because so my son is 6 and my daughter is 3, and things are always changing with them. Obviously, they're in different developmental patterns. They're, becoming more independent or whatever. But, for me, it was easier to work when they were babies
Hmm.
because, for the most part, they were taking a lot of naps, they slept longer, they could be more easily entertained by sitting there and playing with a toy for an hour. Whereas, when they're toddlers or 2, they're running around, they're climbing on everything, they're screaming in the background when you're trying to have a call. It's, there are stages of life that make it easier or harder to get work done. And so my son, we hybrid homeschool. So he goes to school 2 days a week, and then I homeschool him 3 days a week.
Hmm.
So this summer, I'm like, this is going to be great. We're going to be home all together. Like, I'm still going to have time to get work done because we're not doing the homeschool aspect. And I had such false expectations of how much work I'd be able to get done over the summertime with having them both home again 24/7
Yeah.
that I got really behind because, I'm wanting to do fun things. I want to make it a fun summer for him before he has to go back to school. We want to go to
Yeah.
the pool. We want to go to the lake. We want to
Hmm.
take these trips and make memories as a family before he's back into school. So he just started back last week. And so now I feel like it feels good to get back into a routine with him that, he will be gone for those 2 days. That's 2 chunks of time that I have to focus on my work, and then anything else is extra, anything else is bonus that I can get done. But it's it's um it's challenging. I
Yeah.
wouldn't trade it for the world,
Yep.
but it's very hard to be a working parent.
Hmm.
And I think some people, again, like my ideal client, they get it. I'm like, yeah, I can have a call, but my daughter's probably going to be begging for snacks in the background and asking me to watch a show. Like, if you're okay with the toddler chatter in the background, then I can talk to you at this time. So
Yeah.
I always appreciate that because there are some people who, I have some clients who are photographers who are younger, don't have kids, and I'm always like, oh, they probably are like, I'm not having children after getting off of the phone with her and hearing what went on in the background. So
Yeah. Yeah. My kids are very much, if I'm at the home office, um, they're very much getting into stuff. I mean, I can lock the door, and I'll tell them, I'm on a call, I'm on a Zoom call or whatever. But inevitably, at some point, the 5-year-old, my little boy, he'll be at the door, boom, 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 boom,
yep.
and I'm like, go away, I'm on a call. But and we homeschool our daughter, our 10-year-old, but she's in an age right now where she can work through a lot of stuff on her own too.
Mm-hmm.
So she can do a good chunk of her schooling somewhat independently with less, one-on-one explaining every aspect of it. So that's been a little helpful. But our boy in the middle, I mean, he's a wild card, and he's got so much energy, and we haven't even started school with him, but we already know that he's not just going to be able to like sit still and do school normally.
Oh no,
Like,
that's
he's
yeah.
got so much energy. He's constantly climbing something, fake fighting something, whatever. It's
That is my son to a T. And
yeah.
homeschooling with him has been it's really been a blessing to be able to adapt to what he needs because I feel like if
Hmm.
he was sitting in a school 5 days a week, all day long, he would go crazy because he
Oh
needs
yeah.
to move. He loves to wrestle. So
Yeah.
we have like an exercise ball in our office where we do our homeschooling that he can
Hmm.
just sit and bounce just to feel
Mm.
like he's moving and kind of get the jitters out while we're doing our lessons. And then
Yeah.
anytime that we can turn it into a game, we do that. So we'll go outside and we'll do like chalk and he has to jump around to the different words we're spelling out or whatever. Anything that can make him still learn but be physically active is the
Hmm.
best thing for him. He cannot sit still.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's definitely more prevalent with boys than
Yes.
girls, especially when they're little. They just have so much energy they need to work out.
They do. Yeah, you have to direct them so they don't use all that energy to get in trouble,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
constructive.
Yes. Yes. He will. When he could first walk, he was into so much more stuff in our house than our daughter was. Like he would just be climbing everything, opening doors constantly, getting, food out. And he'll still do that to a certain extent. But now it's just the physical energy. He'll be climbing door frames in the house. He'll be he's all over the place. But
It's so funny how
but
boys
he's
are like that.
but he's really sweet. And he's got these long eyelashes, and so every time we're out with him, he's always getting all the ladies' attention.
Oh, I'm sure.
And he knows how to milk it. And a couple of months ago, he started picking up this thing, and I don't know where he got it from. It wasn't like we said to him, like, say this to people, but he'll be at like a checkout at a register or something, and he'll tell the person how beautiful they are.
Oh my gosh.
If it's like a lady, he'll be like, "You are so beautiful." And
Wow.
and if it's a guy, he'll be like, "You're really handsome, and your hair looks good today." And I'm like, "Where did you get this from?" So now he just does it all the
my
time.
goodness.
He'll
That
always
is
be
so
like,
funny.
it actually started with my wife's cousin. That was the first time he kind of started doing this. We don't hang out. Like we see her intermittently, and we were over there for dinner. And so we were going to say goodbye, and he went and gave her a hug, and he was like, "Goodbye, beautiful girl."
Oh my goodness. That is so sweet, but so funny at the same time. See, I wish that my kids right now, well, my 3-year-old, she's in the brutal honesty phase where
Mhm.
anything that she says, it's going to be like she's calling out something that she observes that is true, but you don't need to be saying that. Like she'll say something to somebody like, "Why does she have so many wrinkles?" And I'm like, because, she's old and wrinkles are a blessing to get to live that old. To have wrinkles is not everyone gets to live that old. And, we were at the doctor's office and we had been seeing this younger blonde doctor, but we came in for a sick visit and all of a sudden we saw a different doctor. So it was just whoever they could get us in with. And it was an older blonde doctor. And so my son thought that magically his doctor had aged like 30 years. And he was like, "Why do you look so old today?"
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, that is a different doctor and we cannot say things like that.
Oh my
And
goodness.
she just looked at me like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm like, "Gotta love brutal honesty of a toddler, right?" And she was not amused, but I'm like, I can see how he thought that, but that's not something that we say. So you're in a
Yeah.
much better boat than I am right now
Oh man.
in the toddler chatter.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. He will. I mean, I feel like we went through that phase too, where like, they just say something that you're like, can't say that.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's funny. He'll pick up a conversation with any stranger and just start telling them. His latest thing is he learned to snap his fingers.
Oh, that's a hard skill to
he's
learn.
super proud of that. So
Yeah,
like
I'm sure.
everybody, and like 2 weeks ago he learned to do a cartwheel. So just anybody he sees, he's like, "Watch what I can do." Just like
I love the
snap
confidence.
cartwheel.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, my kids are very my wife laughs about it because she says they get it from me. But I'm a pretty confident person. Like if somebody tells me, I failed at something, I just kind of laugh. Like it doesn't take my morale down.
Mm-hmm.
But my kids kind of get this overconfidence from me. So like my daughter has been learning to do photography with me.
That's awesome.
So I've been trying to, because if she wants to, she can take over my business for me at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not what she wants to do, that's fine. But she has an interest in it. So she's gone on some shoots with me and stuff. And she's got a little camera that I gave her that she works with, and she'll take her own pictures and we deliver them to the clients. Like we pick out the good ones and we deliver them. And so she'll be like, I'm pretty good, aren't I? I'm already a really good photographer. And I'm like, you can always learn more,
Oh my
even
gosh.
for daddy, like even all the years I've been doing it, I still, you know, and she's like, but I'm pretty much already the best,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like,
Oh my gosh. I love
so
that.
it's funny. Kids crack me up because they just say exactly what's on their mind, and it's funny. So,
I'm sorry. I think that's my sister's dog barking.
oh, you're good. It's fine. That's what makes this raw and unscripted is there's things that come in. So, well, this has been fun. I think we covered a lot of things. We talked about some things that we haven't talked about before in our video chats that we've had previously. So that was fun.
It was fun. Yeah, I enjoy going down these rabbit holes with people. I rarely get to talk with other people in the industry on the phone or, sometimes I'll have clients who will call me and they're like, I hope it's okay that I'm calling you. And I'm like, yes, please do. I'm emailing with people all the time. Sometimes I'm texting with people, but I rarely get to like talk and have a conversation with people in the industry. So it's always fun to get to sit down with you and do this. So thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I feel the same way like I feel like I stay so hyper focused on what I'm doing that I'm not even aware most of the time of like what other publications are doing or what other things are happening in the wedding industry. And I'll catch things, but I also don't go on social media that much. Like Caitlin handles our social media for the White Wren, and for my own business, I would just go on and post when I need to, but I don't really like scroll stuff that much. So I feel like I'm often very unaware of like what's trending or what's going on. But maybe that's good or bad. I don't know, because I guess I'm not very aware of how to market to people in the way that they're viewing things on social media at the moment. But
Well, I think
I
it's
don't
a
know.
good thing though, because then you're not sucked into what everybody else is doing. You're playing the comparison game. So you're doing what feels right for you and your brand and your mission. And I think that's all that matters.
Yeah. And it's a lot. Like you said, it can become overwhelming. And, when you're trying to juggle a family and a business, you gotta prioritize where your attention's going to.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, cool. Well, tell everybody where they can find you online, website, social media.
Yeah, so my website is publishedandpretty.com, and on Instagram it's just publishedandpretty. Hopefully we will be trying to get a new website going here shortly. So it might be down for a while, but Instagram is the best place to reach me probably then. And my email is Kristen@publishedandpretty.com. If anybody has any questions about anything, I also have some resources, free and paid, on my website. If you are looking to become more submission savvy yourself and just want to learn the ins and outs about how to submit your work, or maybe how to even start shooting to have a publication ready gallery, there's stuff like that available on my website too.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's awesome. Sweet. Well, thanks for coming on and talking. And as always, we are always grateful for you being a part of our community and sending us pretty things all the time too.
Thank you. I actually think I have some more things to send your way. So
I may have an email to respond to you
I was
about
about to
too.
say, I'll be back to filling up your inbox here shortly.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for jumping on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
There's a place called home, a place called home.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Nested. You can keep up on all things White Wren on our website at whitewren.com or follow us on social media at The White Wren. Tune in again next time and have a wonderful day.
Oh, I've walked for miles and I've driven